Welcome to A Pillow Away podcast, hosted by Dave and Cindy Carver, a couple who have been married to each other for over 23 years. In each episode, they share their insights and stories about the importance of the person closest to you in life, your partner. Through their honest and candid conversations, Dave and Cindy explore the challenges and joys of marriage and relationships, and will offer practical advice for how to cultivate a strong and lasting connection with the ones you love. Whether you are in a relationship or looking for one, A Pillow Away podcast is a must-listen for anyone seeking to deepen their connections and build a fulfilling life with those closest to them. Welcome to another episode of A Pillow Away podcast with Dave Carver. I'm your host, Dave, and the star of our show.
I'm not the star, and my name is Cindy.
You are the star of the show.
I'm not, there's no star.
Nobody tunes in to listen to me.
It's not true.
But we do have a lot of people tuning in. We have done really, really well. We've got a nationwide reach. Pulled a stat the other day that shows that we're in the top 50% of all podcasts downloaded within the first 7 days of the podcast.
Thank you.
So thank you all for listening very much. We get a lot of it out of our local area, which, that kind of makes sense. So Greenfield, Fortville, Indianapolis. We've got listeners in Houston. We've got listeners where?
Kuala
Lumpur. She remembers Malaysia, but she can't remember Greenwood, San Francisco, Chicago, Glenwood, Indiana.
Glenwood.
So if you're checking in at Glenwood, we thank you. We're glad you're on the show with us. We're glad you're here every week listening to what we have to say. And I wanted to do a little wrap-up, kind of a wrap-up podcast for the first month. We knew when we started that this podcast was going to take on its own message. The original message is and always will be the same. We really want to try to help folks that want to listen to this podcast and pick up, whatever they can on helping their relationships, strengthen those relationships. Maybe you're struggling, maybe your relationship's not what you thought it was, and maybe you're just looking for advice on, how do I make it better? So that's been our mission from the very beginning. And we've tried to put some stuff out there that gave a little variety so that we could appeal to other things. And then as we've grown just in the first month, we've discovered that there are a lot of folks that listen to this podcast that really enjoy listening to the stories that Cindy has. And that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But 28, 29 years, we've been together so long that neither one of us actually remember. I think it's closer to 29 years now.
Gotcha. It was 1992.
Oh, so you do remember.
I know, that's when we met.
In 92?
Yeah.
I can't do the math that quickly. That's 31 years ago we met?
Yeah.
Holy crap. No wonder we've grown old together.
Yep.
All right, so that's great. I'm glad you remembered that. Let me ask you a question. How do you define love?
Okay, well, thanks
What does love mean to you? You don't like show prep?
That's true, I don't. How do I define love?
Yeah, what does love mean to you? You don't have to define it, but what does it mean to you?
It means that someone cares for you, takes care of you, does the dishes. No, I'm joking. That's a joke. It's, someone that.
By the way, we have a dishwasher that does that.
Right, but someone has to load them and unload them. So
isn't that what you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. I hate doing it too. So just side note. Love would be unloading and loading the dishwasher for me. It just means that someone cares about you. Someone takes care of you. When you're sick.
Do you believe
buy
that?
you chicken soup.
Do you believe that love is? Do you believe in the phrase "love at first sight"? Is that possible?
Oh gosh. I think you can. I don't think love. I think you can have a huge connection at first sight. I've watched The Bachelor a lot. So that's why I base.
Oh my God, you're going to give Bachelor advice?
No, I've watched The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and I go back and forth because sometimes I don't like who they have on there, and I'm like, I'm not watching it. But I think that is kind of a barometer for me in the fact that do there were people on those shows that said they knew from the moment they met the person they were with or they ended up with on those shows that that was the person they were supposed to be with. Like they knew from the very
Even though
start.
they didn't know anything about that person whatsoever.
Yeah, there are only a few. There's only a few that are like that, but there were a couple that said that they knew, and they're still together. Um, I don't think there's anybody. I mean, like I said, there are years I didn't watch. You know, there are times I didn't watch because I didn't care for the person that was on the show. And the older I get, the worse it gets because there's so much of an age difference between me and the bachelor or the bachelorette,
Everyone else in the world.
everyone else in the world. So I'm probably a lot more traditional than a 25-year-old girl at this point.
So you believe that it is possible, but if I heard you correctly, you think that's somewhat rare to know that that person is the one.
I do, but it does by no means mean that you can build a relationship without taking the next steps. You may know that that's your person, but you're still going to have to take the next steps to build your relationship from the time you meet until, let's say, the time that you get married. I mean, if we're going to use that timeline.
So love takes time to develop.
Right, because you shouldn't not know a lot about your partner, whoever that is, before you marry them, before you live with them. There's all kinds of different things that you should have a pretty good handle on before you live together, before you get married, that type of thing. And I don't think that happens near enough anymore. And I know that's old fashioned, but I think you have to learn who the person is.
And I think you're right, and that's where I wanted to go with this episode and why I asked the question that I did, because we are getting feedback and we are getting people that are saying, hey, we kind of listen to your podcast because you guys love one another and you share information on what you've gone through and how you've gotten there. And I don't want after the first 7 episodes, and this is 7, the 7th one, I don't want our listeners to feel like this happened overnight because it didn't, which is why I keep bringing up how long we've been together. I don't know, and it won't hurt me. It won't break my heart. I've never really asked you. You didn't feel like you were at love and first sight with me, right?
Oh no.
Yeah,
No.
and that's not a negative thing. It's just odd because I think it takes a while for that love to develop. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that each of us are individuals and each of us have our own expectations on what we are trying to get out of the person that's a pillow away from them, out of that partner, whoever that may be. And it takes a little while for that merger to happen. I don't believe that it happens overnight, and I don't feel like. Well, I can be honest and say that the love I have for you today is a lot different than the love I had for you in the first year.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
This one is much more mature. It's much more well-rounded. And through the 29 plus years of living together, more or less, getting comfortable with each other, more or less, having that pillow talk, that person next to you, you learn that certain things that might upset you when you first were dating and first started going out mean absolutely nothing based on the challenges that we've had in life. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And you, as a girl, you never wanted your new boyfriend or whoever to see you without makeup and your hair done, and you didn't get dressed for the whole weekend. And so, just for the record, I am dressed completely and my hair is done. So,
Only because she got up and went out today.
well, yeah, but I needed to look a little put together today.
And for the record, she officially made fun of me this morning because of the sweatpants that I had on. She won't call them sweatpants. What are they?
They're joggers.
What's the difference?
Well, first of all, joggers are now, most joggers are now appropriate to wear casually at work. So
Is that why they have a zip pocket on them?
probably. I mean, like, I've lived in joggers for a couple of years, so.
You know how difficult it is to actually go to like Walmart, and that's where I got it, and I'm not afraid to say it. My whole wardrobe's based on Walmart. Most of it is.
Walmart.
But Walmart's taken over the world, and it's cheap and whatever.
But for the record, the only place we have to buy clothes here is Walmart, Kohl's, and an outlet store for men. So men's, I mean, in a Tractor Supply,
Right.
which he's not buying overalls there, thankfully.
I would love to have a pair of Bibb overalls.
So
I would look
to
good
be
in a pair of
fair,
Bibb overalls.
there aren't a lot of options for men other than Walmart. Women have a couple other options, but
Well,
the
there
men
aren't
thing
there aren't
is
a lot of try-on, take-back options. That's for sure.
Kohl's and Walmart.
Because I know part of this listening audience is going to say, "Well, I order my stuff online." Well, we do too, but the problem is that you can't really tell what you like about it when it's an online order. Because they're going to show you the best pictures of that item that are online, and they're going to show some model wearing it, and you're like, "Man, I would look great in that." And then you realize that your belly size isn't even close to that.
So all the women that are listening right now are going, you can try your clothes on from Amazon. They let you try it for 7 days without charging you.
No, I know that. We did that with tennis shoes. Actually,
Right.
the shoes I'm wearing.
But that's what I'm saying. You can do that with clothes.
I know, but it took a while to understand that. COVID brought that about.
What?
We didn't have that
What's
before.
hard to understand about that?
That you can actually do that now. I've never done that.
okay.
I've always been the guy that's gone and looked at them and picked up a pair of pants and held them out and like, yeah, it looks like they'd fit me. And you bring them home. And,
Right. I'm just saying that you can try clothes from Amazon for 7 days before they charge
yeah,
you.
but
and
you know
can
I'm a
send it back.
traditionalist at heart.
No, I
kind of like
you'd much rather touch it.
yeah,
try it
exactly,
on.
exactly like shoes. I don't.
Right.
Shoes suck if you don't get to try them on first and walk around the store with them.
Well, yeah.
Look at that little mirror and go, yeah, that looks pretty good on me.
You are old.
I am old.
Because I bought boots online that did not fit correctly, and then I missed the return window, and
See, there you go. That's
Then
the
I-
other issue. There's a return window.
I
It's
had
a
to
total
sell
pain in the
them.
butt.
I had to sell them on Marketplace, which I did. But
Did you make a
yeah,
profit?
I did not.
So we lost money on that shoe deal because you missed the return window.
If it's only a few dollars, I think it wasn't crazy. It wasn't like a crazy deal, but it's my own fault. I missed the return window.
Well, the point I was making is that, it takes time to develop a relationship like we have. And she never got to the comment that she made this morning, which was,
What did I say this morning?
I never thought I'd see the day that you
Buy
would wear
joggers.
a pair of joggers. You said slim fit joggers.
Well, I mean that's
I didn't have any choice. It was the only fit that they offered.
Because sweatpants are like baggy and
Well, the point was, I went there looking for sweatpants. Do you
And
know
then
how
you-
hard it is to find
and-
actual sweatpants at Walmart?
I wouldn't think it'd be that hard.
Oh no, they have a whole wall now of those slim fit pants in
Oh.
multiple different colors, which is why I bought something I never buy.
Oh, I see.
Green.
I got you.
Because I thought I would try something different. Stop looking at my pants. These are not the pants. They're
Oh,
in the
I'm
closet
sorry.
behind you.
I didn't realize you didn't have them on.
No, I'm wearing black jeans.
I got you.
Which I also bought at Walmart. Wranglers. I'm giving you my wardrobe. But anyway, the point is she made that comment this morning, and it's interesting because, 35 years ago probably would never have caught me in a pair of pants like that.
Well, because he's never wearing skinny jeans.
No, I don't have the build for skinny jeans.
Well, I mean, just
Well, I mean, I kind of do, but
no, you don't.
skinny jeans
I'm
are
not
just
wearing
so-
them. You're not wearing
Yeah,
them.
they're just so anti-Dave.
Nobody
I
needs
can't. The
to
jeans themselves
direct-
don't want me in them.
No, nobody needs to direct their looking at my booty. That's the way I feel about them.
Yeah, but isn't that the point of skinny jeans?
I don't even know what the point is. I mean, I haven't worn anything with the word skinny in it forever.
Yeah, I
So.
did until I met you, and then things went downhill.
There we go.
So back to the love takes time to develop thing. It does. Over the years, you kind of figure out what each other likes and what they dislike. And it was interesting because we were just having a conversation with our neighbor in the driveway right before we did this podcast about how things that used to bother us don't really bother us much anymore.
Yep.
So where I was going with all of this is that I know that we talk to people, we have friends, we talk to people that are
We have friends.
that we talk to that are a generation behind us.
Yes.
Some
Coworkers.
Some of them are 18 to 20 years behind us. Some of them we've established that listen to this podcast are 30 years behind us. And
which means they could be our kid.
Right, they could be our kid. Actually, they could be my grandson.
Oh my God!
We have listeners that are my grandson's age.
Oh my gosh!
The oldest grandson's age.
Just for the record, we don't have kids together.
No, that's why I said my grandson. Kind of your grandson.
No, I'm just saying we don't have kids together, just so you know.
Right. So we found that out, and you know we've run into some commentary and some feedback from that group of people. And I'm not criticizing. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening to the show. I'm glad you're listening to the program, and you get some enjoyment out of it.
Hopefully.
But the world's different for us today. You got to understand there's two perspectives. I get your perspective if you're 20-something. I do. Because you only know what you know because that's what you've heard for the last 20 years of your life.
Right.
Or 21 years of your life or 22 years of your life. But when you're listening to someone that's 30 years older than you got to understand that they have 50 years worth of life experiences between the two of them. And what makes her laugh about me and what makes me laugh about her sometimes don't make that group of young people laugh.
Nope.
And, you know, not to get too deep into that conversation, but there's a thought process out there that after listening to the first 6 episodes, because I continuously tease you that we don't get along or that I treat you in a certain way, when the reality is this is just where our relationship has grown, where it's morphed to.
Correct.
But it's pretty much always been like that.
It is. And for the record, when he steps over the line, I let him know. But this is how we are. This is our banter back and forth, and that's just the way it is.
Well, there are some that might feel like they need to defend you, or there are some that might feel like that they need to defend me. In some of the commentary that we have, and you know, maybe our commentary doesn't line up with your generational thought process. I get it. We both do. We want the program to be creative. We want it to be fun. We want to be able to share what works for us and what we know works.
True. And what works for us, not every podcast, every episode of every podcast, the one that I listen to, do they ever keep my attention? There may be times where we're talking about stuff that you don't even give a crap about. So yeah, that's fine. Or our attitude or our opinion or our take on things is different than others. Well, that's the way the world is. It's and that's a lesson that I would like to tell people, is that we're all not the same, and that's what makes the world go round.
No, and we are individuals, and as individuals, sometimes you got to understand that when you get to the point in life where we have a couple of things that we kind of center our lives around, and it's just interesting because one of them is a decoration that's in our living room. And I thought about this episode of the podcast as I was looking at it the other day, and it's a Bible verse that says, "And the two shall become one flesh," or ours I think just says, "As the two shall become one." I don't think you can be much more accurate in what we're trying to say about our relationship than just that small phrase, "The two shall become one."
We can finish each other's sentences. If he wants spaghetti for dinner and he's thought about it in his head, somehow it gets to me somehow, some way. And that happens all the time.
That is one of the most bizarre things about our relationship that people are going to be like, there's no way, but there's some form of extrasensory perception for those of you that are technicalists.
ESP.
That she'll be thinking of something, I'll be thinking of something independent of each other in thought. We're in two different locations and it happens. And unfortunately, a lot of it happens to do with food, but it does. She'll have a thought process on food, and typical in most relationships. And if you're a guy out there, your answer is probably very similar to mine. I don't care. To the most profound question on planet Earth, which is,
What am I going to fix for dinner? Or what are we going to have for
wait a
dinner?
minute, why did you say it that way? What am I going to fix for dinner?
Let's not even go there.
Isn't the most profound question, what do you want to eat?
Okay, fine. Say it that way.
Well, why'd you have to be so defensive and say, what am I going to do?
We've had this conversation recently.
I know we have. So that is the most profound question, I think, in our relationship is, what do you want to eat? And my general response is, I don't care. I don't.
Which sometimes you end up eating cereal when you have that answer.
Yes, but I'm good with it.
Every once in a while.
And I've told you
Doesn't
that.
happen a lot.
I've told you that. I'm comfortable with a bowl of cereal. I'll eat a cheeseburger. I don't care.
I get that. But as every woman knows, you get tired of trying to come up with, ideas or, this week I have been inspired. I don't know why. So I've
It's
made.
been a really good food. The
It
last
has.
few
He's
weeks.
pretty excited.
Since we started putting this out on the podcast,
Oh my!
it's
That's not
changed
true.
our lives.
That is not
It
true.
has.
It has nothing to do with the podcast.
It's changed our lives.
Nothing.
Since we started putting this out
Nothing
there,
to
it
do.
has changed our lives.
I made
I'm
homemade
eating well,
pizza dough and made breakfast pizza for breakfast this morning.
as opposed to breakfast pizza for lunch.
Well, it's breakfast pizza.
Okay.
So, he made a great gumbo for Fat Tuesday, just off the cuff, which was amazing. And what else did I make that was so good that I drawn? Enchiladas.
The enchiladas you've
Beef
done. She
enchiladas.
does two different types of enchiladas that she does that are just fantastic. And I wouldn't care if I ate anything else Mexican other than those two things ever.
It's really not
it's
that.
not that difficult, and she won't take credit for it, but they're the two most favorite things that you do. She makes a meatloaf that's killer because she makes it just like my mother used to do.
That's why it's
And
killer.
that's another key if you're wondering about relationships. I'm not trying to offend anyone or hurt your little feelings, but if you really want to impress a guy and you're a girl and you're trying to impress your man with your cooking or culinary skills, make something his mother used to making. It works.
And I didn't even know that meatloaf was like your mom's until I made it. I mean, I took the advice of him because I don't care for meatloaf. So basically what I would eat meatloaf would be like a hamburger.
A hamburger.
It would be
in the
because
form
I
of a
don't
loaf.
care for, I don't really like
Cindy
onions
can't do
and
the Holy
green
Trinity.
pepper.
She can't do
and
the Holy Trinity.
I don't like it like that. So,
Green
but like
pepper,
a Salisbury
onion,
steak,
celery, those are all yucky as far as she's
celery, the
concerned.
scourge of the earth, right behind cilantro.
Which is bizarre. Well, I don't like cilantro. Which is bizarre because we're both good cooks and we both like to eat, and Cindy will not go anywhere near those three things. So
Celery's in our refrigerator right now.
I know. I'm going to have to try to eat like a rabbit this week
need
just
to
to
eat
get
it.
rid of it, or I'll put it out in the yard where the rabbits can get to it.
Gotcha.
We use celery in the gumbo, whether you knew that or not.
And that is fine because it was cooked beyond recognition. You can't even tell it was in there. So I'm sure the flavor's somewhat there, but raw celery to me is disgusting. I don't even like to touch it or smell it.
Well, it's kind of funny because we came back to food, and it's one of the great loves that we both share.
Fortunately.
We both have eaten our way across the country.
Lord have mercy.
When we've traveled, it's always been based on food.
I like to find great restaurants.
But see, I think that's another key to good relationship building is you got to find stuff that you have in common that bring you both joy. And, I'm not going to turn this podcast into an X-rated one, but sex is what sex is. There has to be something beyond that in a relationship. If there's not, my personal opinion is you're pretty well doomed. There has to be something more shared than a physical life, because at some point that physical life is going to grow old. And I don't mean old stale, I mean old age. And it won't mean nearly as much. Am I right?
Okay. All right.
Seriously.
Here we are.
No, seriously.
We're both in our 50s. One is almost 60.
But we're trying to help people.
Right.
And the point
Yeah.
is that you
You need to be
you
well-rounded.
need to get to 60 with
You
a
need to be
well-rounded
well-rounded.
relationship and not just something based on sexual
Right.
attraction to the other
Right.
person.
Your attraction to each other. It changes over the years. And I'm sure, are people who would disagree with that. There are people our age that would disagree with that. That's just how we are. So,
Yeah, but I think the people that would disagree don't know because they don't have the depth of the relationship yet. That's where we're trying to convey with
no,
whole
I mean
pillow.
people our age that don't understand, that would disagree with that. That would say, well, I still feel the
I
fire
didn't say that
in
the
my
fire wasn't there and that the sex was
gut
over.
or
I'm
whatever.
just saying there's something more to it. When we first met, that's all I wanted.
Okay.
Initially, that was the most fun. That was the pinnacle of everything. I didn't care about talking. I didn't care about idle chit chat. I didn't care what books you read. I didn't care for the music that you listened to, which is bizarre because all of that music means something to me today. What'd you introduce me to musically that I didn't like?
Country music.
They used to call it country and western, right?
Well, even when I listened, it was country. So we're talking, we're talking 90s country for those of you out there. It was
Okay.
90s.
That's right.
It is 90s.
You said
Yeah.
92, so that's correct.
Yep.
But I made an effort to like it. The first country song I ever sang you.
John Deere Green.
There you go. It's on my desk at work. I see it every day.
Because I got that for you.
I know.
You can buy this plaque that has song lyrics on it. And I think he got it for Valentine's Day last year, I think.
Billy Bob loves
great.
Charlene.
Yep.
It's my favorite line out of that whole song.
Yep.
Rock My World, Little Country Girl.
Oh my gosh.
There's
Brooks and
another one,
Dunn.
Brooks and Dunn. I listened to a lot of Brooks and Dunn because of you.
Yeah.
I quoted you a country lyric the other day. I texted it to you.
I don't remember this one.
You don't remember the text I sent you the other
No,
day.
I don't. Sometimes it happens.
I was listening to George Strait Radio on Spotify. By the way, this podcast is on Spotify. You don't remember.
I don't.
Not at all.
No.
But anyway, she was the one that introduced me to country music. Didn't care for it, just like she doesn't like meatloaf, but she'll make it for me. And that's what we're talking about in knowing the person that's a pillow away from you, what they like, what they don't like.
And sometimes you have to do what they want at times. You get to watch programs that probably wouldn't be your first choice. I've never liked to watch TV in separate bedrooms. So obviously I've become a huge sports fan more than I was before. So football, basketball, not really basketball, football mainly, basically. So movies, shows, they end up being cops and robbers, and we do a lot of stuff like that. So
Yeah, but you like the programs I watch, right?
sometimes.
I can't stand any of the shows you watch
See, I know that. That's why we don't watch them,
together.
because I don't need to hear your commentary.
But I can't do it.
I know that.
I can't find love. I can't find love on a TV, made for TV.
Oh no, I would never ask you.
Bachelorette.
No.
It's the dumbest concept on planet
I would
Earth.
never. It's just
By
entertainment
the way,
to
I
me.
expect the feedback. Some of you that absolutely love that program are going to say, "Oh, I can't stand Dave. He sucks." I get it.
It's just entertainment.
It's not entertainment.
It is for me.
It's the
That's all it
dumbest
is.
thing. How do you waste your time on like the Bachelorette, knowing what you know, knowing how many people you are trying to help with this podcast? How can you waste
Just
your time on that
entertainment?
garbage?
It's just entertainment.
How?
It just is.
How is it entertaining?
The other part too is they travel to these really cool places, and they stayed at right now they're at the Atlantis. So we went to the Atlantis. So it's interesting to see that they've based that program, where they did, which I'm actually quite shocked that a public place like the Atlantis is where they would film.
We've been to the Atlantis.
I know that's.
You and I.
Did you hear that? I
No,
just
I
said
probably
that.
didn't. I was sleeping during that.
I
portion.
just said that.
We've been
So,
there.
We stayed in the timeshare portion, if you've ever been to the Atlantis. So it wasn't the two towers hotels, that have that whatever that bridge is that goes across. Can you walk across that thing?
I don't know.
I don't think it might just be for decoration. Anyway, we stayed in like the condos. They're brightly colored condos that are down the pier, basically.
Isn't that where I got sicker than a dog? The lazy river at the Atlantis.
It wasn't the lazy river. It was there's a lazy and a fast river, and
But they called it a lazy.
Someone ate fish bites before they went on the.
Yeah, you don't know. It wasn't fish bites. It was conch.
No,
I thought we had the conch.
No, we had done conch earlier, which we do not enjoy conch. We will not be eating it again.
And I had fish bites, and then I laid in the hot sun and drove around in circles.
And then went on the raging river, which he was by mistake. So I look up and he's gotten out. Like he was ahead of me. Well, first of all, we got separated because he went down the wrong way. So
yeah, I raged all the way back to the room.
And he's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna throw up."
I was green that day.
So no.